Playing a harp, anything like that, you're more than welcome to. But as far as the maybe playing part, that's the end of it. But I wanted to let you guys. I know everybody's had a long day, so you're free to go. And if you want to ask me questions, feel free to come by. I'm here to answer all of your questions, including how many mistakes did I make, how nervous was I. I just want to tell you guys so that you know what it's really like from the perspective of someone who sits down and does this on a somewhat more regular basis. How I do it and why. So thank you for having me.
Well, let's give another round. We provided a small reception out there for you guys, and as you know, this was a free concert, but if any of you guys felt led to give Jackie a little tip for all her wonderful playing, I will be taking her out to celebrate tonight, so feel free to give a donation. If not, there's just food and drinks for everybody, and please help yourself to Jackie's extensive knowledge. Yes.
I just think that was really beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I really
Harp
appreciate
Concert.
it.
That was really, really lovely.
Oh, that means so much to me. I'm so glad. Thank you.
You guys are dismissed unless you want to
Yeah.
ask questions.
What's your question?
What are those little black things?
These things? They're connected to the pedals, and the pedals change the pitch. So when they're all open, the string can vibrate more, and then it'll be flat. And if you move them, it changes the pitch up to natural, and then sharp. What it does is it tightens the string and makes the tension and the pitch higher. So these guys and the gold ones up here are all attached to the pedals, are attached to a rod. Rods, actually, 7 of them, that run up the column and into the neck. And there's over 2,000 moving parts in just the neck. So despite being an ancient instrument, we've sure got a lot going on.
Thank you. She's starting next week.
Oh, you are?
Yes.
Wonderful.
You are.
You too?
Have you been playing?
Gosh, I've been playing for 19 years. So I'm 26. I started when I was 7, which doesn't mean that you have to start when you're 7. I know.
I'm 7.
You're 7? Perfect. That's absolutely perfect. But I know lots of harpists that have started at many points in their life. One of my great mentors is the harpist in the LA Philharmonic, and she didn't start till she was 14. So if you don't get a head start, it's totally okay. But if you can start when you're 7, all the better. Yeah.
How hard is it for you to reach the bass strings? They're kind of far away.
Yeah, they are a little far away. I mean, I spend all this time playing and have to really, when you get to a high level, you really have to focus a lot on ergonomics. It's not really such an issue when you're first starting because you're not spending that many hours at it, and you're young, and and I'm young too, but still you have to really worry about your body. So the most comfortable position to play the harp in is, you really hold it up with your shoulders and everything. So for me, the hardest thing is it's not so much physically difficult to reach as it is uncomfortable if it's sustained. So it's uncomfortable for me to spend a really long time really down on the bass wires. Like if I'm moving up and down, it's fine. But there's actually a lot of orchestral pieces that have a lot of harp solos down here. So when I'm at home practicing those, I really have to take a lot of breaks and make sure I'm using the right muscles. Otherwise, I'll start to get really tense, and that's not good for anybody. It's actually, I would say on that note, sometimes it was actually the most difficult for me in this concert to get some of these notes because you start running out of room a little bit at the very top and your hand doesn't really fit in there so well. So and that's just something that happens on most harps, and it's different from model to model. And this harp, I'm lucky, has a lot of room until you get to the very, very top. But that's my answer to that question. Yes?
Which piece was the hardest for you?
Oh, Lord. I would say that the handle's the hardest for me. It's just every moment, every moment of playing the handle is like all fingers on all hands are totally engaged, you know, and the handle's also, I think it's a treacherous piece to perform in the way that you can really follow the melody, and so if something happens, it's really obvious. And it also was written in 1736, which means that there are no weird notes in it. If you heard weird notes in Handel, that was all my fault. If you heard weird notes in Thai Fair, some of them are supposed to be there. So, so that's why I think the Handel's so hard to play. So for me, that was the hardest. Yes?
Do you only play solo, or have you played with an orchestra or
Yeah.
something?
Well, I actually primarily do orchestral work, so that's definitely what I do the most. I just graduated from the San Francisco Conservatory of Music, and so played with a lot of regional orchestras. I came down at Christmas to play with Ballet San Jose here, so I just do as much orchestral work as I can all over the place, and a lot of it in LA as well. That's where I'm from, so I do a lot there. But I definitely do orchestral playing. I love playing with other people. I mean, playing by myself, in my mind, is, you know, just for me personally, is, you know, it's fine, but I love collaborating with other musicians, and I love what really happens when you start working with another musician and really communicating directly with another person via sound. So that's always been very meaningful for me. But of course, I still like playing by myself, and I love the harp so much. So I'm happy to play it whenever I can.
When did you click? Like, when did it click for you? When you were, or what age did you go, this is for me, and I can't believe that I get to play this every day?
Oh gosh. This probably sounds overly romantic, and I'm sure in some ways it is, but I loved it a lot from the very beginning. I didn't know that it's what I wanted to do as a living, and I would say that some of the moments that I really remember where I didn't think, I couldn't even, at times when I couldn't ever think of doing anything else. I remember in my sophomore year of college, I was going to UCLA as a music major, and I was hired to go to Banff in Canada. It's a really beautiful place, and play just all this beautiful music and with these other great musicians. And I remembered just I was playing this really beautiful harp solo called Introduction and Allegro, and when you hear it, it just is the best thing in the world. And I remember I was playing it, and it was for harp and chamber, so there was string quartet, flute and clarinet, and the harp was soloist, and I just remember playing and just thinking that I was the luckiest person in the world, and that even though there are some times that are hard, you know, you gotta practice long hours, you know, people don't always appreciate what you do, there's not always a whole lot of jobs, or there's, you know, these things, but it just, in that moment, made me think that I'd do it over again every time, because it's just so wonderful. I can't even stop smiling thinking about it, because it just was such a special feeling that I've never had doing anything else. So that's, I would say, when I was for sure never going back, you know, never going back on anything. But I definitely always really liked the harp a lot, and from the time I was in grade school, or probably middle school, started to think about if I could make a career out of it or do something with it. So, yes, sir.
The last two notes, it looks like there's no thingy
That
makes
is
it later. Or
yeah, that is very, very, very perceptive of you. The very last two notes do not have these on there, and I believe from what the harp makers tell me is that there's a ton of tension on all the strings. It's something like 2,000 pounds of pressure, and for these two, not only the mechanics of getting this long of a string to change into like that low of pitches. I mean, this is pretty much the bottom of the piano. There's not a whole lot of pitch that goes below that. And then to additionally deal with the extra tension that would add on to the harp when you would put it in sharp, that would just be really extreme, and that it's not really worth it for these bottom two notes. But they decided that it was worth it all the way down to there. So what we do is much like you do with a lever harp, you just tune it beforehand. So when I only used this one in this concert, I needed a D sharp, and it's a D, so I tuned it to a D sharp. But that's a very good observation. And crystal's hard. This happens a lot on the very top string too. A lot of times the very top string won't have the discs either, because it's just asking to break it. Yes.
How do you transport something that size when you go from these, you know?
Kind and loving parents.
I mean, do you have to have a minivan or?
You have to have a large car to be able to put it, and a lot of people. What do you have a station? Yeah, station wagons are great.
Audi TT, but not Audi's work.
Yeah.
Lexus's work. Well, most of the big station wagons work.
Yeah, there's a big station wagon or SUV
Park car.
minivan. Yeah, and I've definitely put. I think that the smallest car I've ever put my harp in was a Toyota Matrix. I think that was a hatchback.
Was the back open?
But no, the back was not open. I did have to put down the passenger seat though, and the harp kind of like rode up front with me, sort of upside down. It was not the best day of my life, but I was desperate, so. My car broke down, and that was the only person who could drive me, and so we had to make it work, which is what you do when you become a performer, let me tell you.
What about flying though? How do you fly something that size?
Oh, I personally try to never fly. I mean, we have giant harp cases. They're just monstrosities. They're like this big over here and up here, and they're we have like a soft cover to just get it around normally, but this thing is like it's hard, made of wood or you know, carbon fiber or whatever, you know, depending on where you get it from. And it's totally padded on the inside, and the harp goes in there, and they're just huge. They're terribly difficult to move, and there's still a good chance that the people at the airline will throw it around anyways. So we generally try really hard not to fly with them, and since you can adjust to other harps, even though it's not necessarily ideal, I'm sure you guys know, you can adjust to other harps. So if you go, when I travel out of town, I just play on a harp that's there. What big orchestras do, like when the San Francisco Symphony goes on tour, they actually they take their harps with them, but they have a crew that's very specially trained in handling the instruments, including the harps, and they have full control over the instruments the whole time, so they don't sort of have to deal with that very, very dangerous thing that is putting your luggage under an airplane, you know. Well, I mean, they still put it under there, but they're loading it very carefully. They're not just leaving it in the hands of, you know, whoever's been working their 12-hour shift and is not happy to have this big honker and just throws it in. So, yes, sir?
How come you used her bikini when you were playing?
I did not.
What's that?
How dare you?